although I was initially thinking I want to play football, I want to get under that 90 kilograms that I never did when I got married.
Welcome back to the Lose to Win podcast with myself, Josh, and Steve is back again this week as a co-host. We also have another guest from Man v Fat Bournemouth. I probably shouldn't give it away, so welcome, Chris Cowen, mate. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. Very good.
What I was about to say is I shouldn't give it away. Is I was about to give away something about your weight loss journey, which we can get to further down the line. I was thinking we would get you to say and come back to. How's your week been? How are you feeling heading into this Friday?
Yeah, I mean it's busy as always, to be honest. Yeah, where do I start? Start off with a cold. It's finally leaving me, this cold, and yeah, plenty of getting out there and running this last few days, and yeah, it's busy at work as always. I keep thinking I'll wake up in the morning and I'll spend a bit of time with the kids, and the work piles in. So yeah, it's busy, but it's good. It's how I like it.
Yeah. How you managed to get a cold in this weather? As I know today is not a good example, but
you know what? It's not children. It doesn't matter what time of the year it is. They somehow bring colds home, and then they spread. So yeah, my wife's full of it as well. But yeah. It's nearly gone, so I'm quite happy about it. It's come and gone quickly.
Good. How about you, Steve? How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. Another good week. I've been a bit of a media floozy this week. After recording last week's podcast with you, I had an interview about my book with Radio Solent, and then I was on the 23 MPH podcast that Jimmy and Russ and Connor do, which, for anyone who doesn't know, it's another podcast that's grown out of Man vs Fat Bournemouth, but with much more of a focus on discussing mental health issues, and I was the guest on it this week. And you can find that on Spotify or on YouTube. So that was a lot of fun. And I just heard yesterday that some stuff that I recorded for the interview with Radio Solent is going to be used on across BBC Radio in the South on the Upload show tomorrow evening. So
very nice.
More publicity, which is great.
Yeah. Love it.
So yeah, I've been, as I say, a bit of a media floozy, but it all started with Lose to Win.
Oh yeah, well you say that now, just because you're here. No, I guess quickly before we move on, then how's the book going? I should ask you. Not that people knew you had a book coming out, of course.
Have I mentioned it before? Has it come up at all ever? I don't know. I don't really know. I'm not in touch with how the sales are going. I know that I'm starting to get reviews coming in on Amazon, and I'm starting to get people that I know who have read it coming back and telling me that they've read it, and either people are enjoying it or they're just very polite and don't want to hurt my feelings. But yeah, I've had lots of really positive comments from people, which is brilliant. So yeah, hopefully.
Amazing.
I'd like to say, I purchased the book a little while ago off Amazon, and I'm at chapter 6. I've been at chapter 6 for a while.
It's that good.
Target audience is for parents. And parents are busy, so at some point I hope to resume. But the first six chapters have been really good, and I've really enjoyed it. It's just finding time.
Yeah. No, I understand that.
Yeah. Not so many people have the time.
I will take that excuse at face value and not surmise that it's the opposite of an unputdownable book.
Yeah,
I mean, I
I
can
just
just
had all
leave
the
the
time in the
children
world, by the way.
screaming at each other and carry on reading. You know, I could do that, but I'm not quite.
Yeah,
I'll get away with it for too long.
yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah, I was lucky. I just had all the time in the world to read it in like the space of a few days. So after I got a copy, I just powered through it. So, although that's probably a good sign considering the fact I couldn't really put it down. So there you go. Here you go, Steve.
You've made
I
up
loved
for
it.
Chris there, Josh.
Yeah. We should probably get back to why this podcast is here in the first place. Our Man v Fat Bournemouth.
I thought the podcast was here to promote my books. Is that not the point of it?
Yeah, you're not getting your usual fee for this. So yeah, so on to our Man v Fat Bournemouth roundup for this last week. We should probably start with a stat attack. Just under 15 kilos were lost this week, 14.7 to be precise, 14 hat-tricks and 3 sizable milestones. So 40 players lost weight out of the 60 weighing in, including 18 who lost 1 kilo or more. 3 of the 60 players were new players, we should say. So welcome to a new Josh, Tom and George. As the new players didn't have a previous weight to improve upon, it's effectively 40 out of 57. So more than 2/3 of us lost weight this week. The standard required to make Team in the Week went up a notch too. So with 5 players losing 2 kilos or more. So very well done, gents. We're well and truly back on track, I would say. Wouldn't you say so, Steve? I think this week has been a get right week, maybe.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, I was really pleased with this week's results.
Yeah. In terms of actual team results, then I should say, the Whites won 12-6 against the Greens. The Oranges won, well, thumped really, I should say, unfortunately, sorry, Purples, 19-9, the Purples against the Purples. The Blacks had a rare draw. We don't get draws often, do we? 9-all against the Reds. And us Yellows lost 11-5 to the Blues. It's a real shame for us Blacks and Yellows, isn't it, Chris, being a member of the Blacks, who faltered in our pursuit of the title. With but you're still the leaders, aren't you? So, of the league.
Yeah, I mean it's close and it's open, which is great. There's a great challenge there, but I mean the Reds, what a fantastic team they are. Even without one of their best players, arguably, they have a fantastic team, and they were so up for it, and they deserve. Their pitch performance was fantastic. So obviously a draw for us. We were thinking perhaps that's a point gained, bearing in mind that some of the other leading teams have lost to them in recent weeks. But yeah, it was a bit of a rare draw, but you know, we move on and look forward to the next week, I suppose.
Yeah, well, it keeps us in it, us Yellows, and we still have to play you as well. Not this coming week, but next week. So we'll see what happens there. Don't you have to play the Blues as well this week? Are you playing the Blues this week?
Yeah, I think we are actually.
The other title chasing team.
Yeah, so. Yeah. It's hopefully the boys can do something there. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one. With us, by the way, and yourselves faltering, yourselves as the leaders drawing against the Reds, we have yourself top of all 3 leagues, but the Blues are now just 1 point behind in the main of the pitch league and 2 points behind at the scales, and us Yellows are a further 1 point back in the main league. So it is tight as tight, really. Where we're joined by the Whites, currently enjoying a winning streak, which has pushed them into the fringes of the title race, which I'm sure they'll be thrilled about, to be honest. If I'm honest, I've been so focused on the Yellows and being top of the league for a few times, and I hadn't even thought about the fact that we've been caught up. So
I think the Blacks also kind of caught onto that last week and thought, wow, where have the Whites come from? But, yeah, great. It's fantastic.
I think they've won for the last 3 weeks. So while the top few teams have all slipped up here or there, they've just been powering on, and they've got themselves back into the back into the mix for the title now.
Certainly. Well, with us 4 teams then separated by just 2 points, and each due to play 2 of the other 3 teams in the remaining 3 weeks, there's still everything to play for. I guess it's going to be very, very interesting.
And I think I'm right in saying that not this coming Friday, but the Friday after, those 4 teams are all playing each other. So each of the teams has got one of the other title chasing teams in 2 weeks' time. So there will definitely be points dropped that week, and yeah, it could be very interesting.
Well, the purples.
Do you want to be top? The target's on your back, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe the whites are doing the right thing, just creeping up, you know? Who knows?
Yeah, I'm not sure, because I mean, let's just say you're in top against us when we play you next week. Would you rather be top or not? I would almost think I'd rather be top, because it's in our own hands. You know, we win and it's done as such. So we'll see. Anyway, the purples lost the most weight this week, despite only having 6 players weigh in. Their diminished sextet lost 7.6 kilos, with 6 moving in the right direction. So Oranges managed 9 losses out of 10, we should say, for a collective 5.3 kilos and 5 hat-tricks, while the Whites lost 6.4 kilos. Ryan Broadbank hits his 10% milestone this week, bringing his total loss up to 12.4 kilos. Michael Burr and John Costa have both joined the 15% club, losing 18.4 and 16.9 kilos respectively. So well done to all 3 for continuing to make such great progress towards their goals. So fantastic, isn't it, really? I was just trying to think as well, because neither of those 3 have been in the club for a particularly long time. I know Ryan's come and gone, but as he's come back, I assume he reset. And so 10 and 2 15s and into the tens of kilos for those 3 is very, very impressive. Then there were 3, by the way, I should say. 2 fell by the wayside in last man standing, leaving Matt Waterman, John Costa and Peter Meach as the last 3. Well, I'm not sure if all 3 can make the 3 remaining weeks unscathed, but I guess you'll have to tune in next week and find out. So when we're back. Matt Waterman and Tom Marks share the honour of leading the team of the week, both losing a mighty 2.8 kilos. Nobody retains their place from last week, although I came close, didn't I, Steve, to having improved on last week's result, but missed out by just 100 grams. You said, Steve, that I would miss this out on this week's pod and that I shouldn't, but I would have if it weren't for the fact that I wasn't the only one who just missed out on Team of the Week this week, because Peter Meach also missed out by only 100 grams. I realised that I was in Team of the Week last week and just missed out to go back to the back, but I'm leaving that as a buy note, really. Yeah. So I'm happy with 2 losses in a row. Let's put it that way, 2 pretty consistent losses. So the team of the week is as follows. So we have Matt Waterman with 2.8 kilos, Tom Marks with 2.8 kilos, Tim Winrow with 2.7, Liam Goodall with 2 kilos, Charlie Taylor-Rees with 2 kilos, Geordie Howe with 1.9, Sonny Coe with 1.6, and Alex Jones with 1.6. I did actually say to you, Steve, didn't I? It would be quite good to just miss out on Team of the Week, and I guess that's what's happened. Because it's a good
when you
loss.
weighed in, you did say that because I think you knew that it was the kind of weight that is borderline for whether it gets in or not. You did say that you hoped you missed Team of the Week, because that would mean that more people in the club had a good week. So very, very noble and self-sacrificing.
Oh no, it wasn't,
Josh. And your wish was granted.
Yeah, it was quite telling, because I said to Alex as well. I said, Alex lost 1.6, and I said, I think that'll be just about in. I think he might make it as the last person on the sideline. So obviously had a good week of prediction.
Do you play the National Lottery, Josh? Because with that kind of predictive powers.
Not often enough, obviously. So it's another great week with some excellent football played and lots of progress made towards individual long-term goals. Whether losses are big or small, it's a direction of travel that counts. Let's have more of the same next week. Focus on the progress and stick to the plan, and we'll be amazed, I guess, or you'll be amazed at what you can achieve over time. You've got this. And that is the end of this week's roundup. Anything to add, Steve, on this week?
No, I mean, after a couple of weeks where we've been going the wrong way, it's nice that we're collectively losing again. But as we said last week, although we've been gaining weight, we understand why that's happening at this time of year. And lots of people have been making good losses, but then other people have been coming back from holiday, having understandably put on weight, having enjoyed their holiday. So I wasn't overly concerned that we were gaining weight, but it's nice. It's nice to have a week going in the right direction again.
Yeah. Do you remember this being typical for this time of year? Obviously, a year feels like quite a long time at Man v Fat, because so I can't personally remember.
So I'll be honest. I said last week I've not looked it up, and I've still not looked it up. But anecdotally, I think it's not uncommon in the summer that we don't do as well as we do at other times of year.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, on to our guest then, Chris. Welcome, I should say. Thank you for coming on. We usually do a bit of icebreakers. It's usually a football-related icebreaker, and this week's going to be no different. So, firstly, I'd like to say I assume you're a football fan before I ask these questions, just to clarify.
I mean, I couldn't live without football. It's a big part of my life. So yes, I'm a football fan.
This is going to be an easy thing then. So could you tell us first off who you support, who your team is?
Yeah, so I support Oxford United. Not a common team.
I love that.
Not United, not Arsenal, not City, and not Spurs. So wouldn't have it any other way though.
Yeah. Do you get to games much? If you actually? It's not all that far away, is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to get to games. I've got two girls and they both play football. So, and I've got a son who's just a bit younger. He's only 4. So I spend a lot of my time, particularly at the weekends, living the dream with the girls, playing football. So I don't get to too many games, in all fairness. I'd love to get to more. When I do get to games, it's great. The thing with Oxford is we're trying to build a new stadium. The history of Oxford is that we've gone down far into the National League, and we're kind of on our way back up. The trajectory is really good. Our successes over the last few years has been fantastic, but off the field has been difficult for many years. A little bit like the Coventry situation over the last few years. We don't have ownership of our ground. It's been very expensive to rent, and Kassam that finished the stadium didn't really finish it very well, and we've been under leadership, and it's just been a terrible period for us where we can't make money through being in there. And I think we've got 2 years left. We've got this season and next season left at the ground, and then we're homeless. So we've got some wealthy owners and good investment, and we're looking to build a new stadium in Kidlington. The one issue we have is Oxfordshire County Council, who are trying to help us, but Oxford's a very difficult place to build on. There's so much greenbelt land, but kind of around Oxford, it's a nightmare. So we might end up, I don't know, we might end up somewhere else. Reading, I suppose, need the money until we can get to the new ground. But when it happens, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, interesting. That's history.
Did you, before children came along, were you a regular at Oxford matches in the past?
Yeah, so back to the original question, I suppose. Yes, so I moved to Oxford from the north, actually from Huddersfield, kind of Leeds, Huddersfield area, when I was about 10 years old. And hate to say it, but at the time it was kind of the time when Leeds were doing quite well. They just won the league. You know, they had like the Speeds, the Batties, the McAllisters, Yeboahs, and so forth playing for them. So growing up in that area, I started to like football at the time, and Leeds was probably, well, I say probably because I don't like to admit it, but Leeds was my team at the time. But as a 10-year-old moving to Oxfordshire, my allegiance changed really when my sister actually played football, and she had a trial at Oxford United Women, managed to get started off in the reserve team, started getting tickets for the Manor Ground, our old ground, and she started taking me to games. So we go in the old London Road of the stadium. It was a fantastic small stadium. It was a little fortress, plenty of, you know, terrace. At the time we were in the Championship, that it just formed into the Championship, and it was a really successful kind of period for Oxford. So my allegiance just changed. I got a season ticket straight away at Oxford, and kind of as a youngster, you just, you know, your heroes are the players you can see on the pitch. So yeah, I instantly became an Oxford fan, and I had a season ticket for quite a few seasons as a youngster. It's kind of great young days.
Amazing.
I have a confession to make at this point. What I guess is round about that time. I mean, we're talking early 90s, maybe early to mid 90s.
Mid 90s, like 96.
Mid 90s, okay.
Yeah.
Slightly before your time then, by a couple of years at most. I was living in Oxfordshire in a town called Thame,
Okay.
and as was my habit wherever I've lived, I've tended to go along and watch the local team from time to time. And Oxford United was one of those teams that I just never warmed to. As a going to my local team, you know, when you go and you watch your local team and you think, oh yeah, well, you know, they're not my team, but I can get behind this. I never felt that connection with Oxford. Thame United, the local non-league team, I go and watch them, love them. I never got that with Oxford. I don't know why. Nothing I can put my finger on, but I didn't warm to Oxford. But that would have been in the Manor Road days. And I remember they had a winger called Joey Beecham, who was a superb player. I liked watching him, but I never felt that bond with Oxford.
You've waited until Chris has come on, haven't you, to this?
I'll be honest, until just now, until tonight, I didn't know that Chris was an Oxford fan.
You know what? You're with most of Oxfordshire. Most of Oxfordshire supports Aston Villa or Birmingham or Arsenal or Tottenham. So, you know, I mean, we're the only professional football team in Oxfordshire. So there's a massive catchment. You know, and when we have got to Wembley, we've taken quite a lot of fans, but particularly the years of playing Histon and Dagenham and Redbridge, and you know, fantastic years to go and support your team away in a conference. You know, also very hard years to get back in the league, but you know, Oxford, they've got a core fan base, and then they've got some outer fans like myself that don't get there enough. But yeah, we could be a bigger club. Our current owners are one of them has owned Inter Milan. They have had big teams around the world, and they see Oxfordshire as, you know, if you ask people around the world, like major cities, Oxford's one that springs to mind because of the university. So they see Oxford as a massive potential. They went to Oxford University themselves, and kind of they want to grow Oxford into something that's bigger, but the right way. So there's no rushing it. You know, it's got to be sustainable. But we've got an opportunity now to try and grow the club. We're back into the Championship for the first time in 25 years. So, you know, it's a great time to be an Oxford fan, and you know, it's unfortunate that you didn't go to see Oxford last year.
Well, what can I say? but in fairness, it is great to see when a club has drifted down the divisions. it's lovely to see them then working their way back up, and as you say, doing it the right way, and building sustainably, which seems an appropriate thing for a Man versus Fat podcast to be praising them for, because that's what we're all after, is achieving our goals sustainably. But yeah, it's great to see Oxford going back up, even if in my time living in Oxfordshire, I never warmed to them. I wish the club no ill will. They're not one of those teams that I loathe or anything like that. But yeah, they just didn't push my buttons.
I'll let you
off. Have you got like a favourite player then, or memory with, or both, for Oxford then?
So starting off as a favourite player, Steve, you mentioned him, Joey Beecham. When I went to start watching Oxford in the mid-90s, he became a cult hero for Oxford. He started off as in Oxford youth, made his way into the first team, did fantastically well. He, in the mid-90s, or just before the mid-90s, he got sold to West Ham because we were skint. We needed the money, 1.45 million, which was quite a big fee at the time in the 90s, particularly for a League One team, which we were at the time, I think. But he just didn't settle. And actually, our biggest rivals are Swindon Town. It's quite a difficult relationship with Swindon, should I say. My daughter played there the other day, and I went to my Oxford top and I got a lot of bad looks, should I say, but I had to do it. So he went to Swindon Town.
Am I right? Sorry, Josh, am I right in thinking that Sid is a Swindon fan?
He is indeed a Swindon fan. Yes, yeah.
Okay. I'll,
not that we're trying to stir up any intense rivalries here.
It's all right. I know a few, and we have a good rapport. It's absolutely fine. But generally, I'm not sure Sid would agree that the rivalry with Oxford and Swindon. I think once I read in the Telegraph that it was one of the top 10 rivalries in the country, just down to the ill feeling, which is strange. But yeah, there we go.
I can vouch for that. I very much picked up the Oxford Swindon intensity when I lived there.
Yeah.
The Oxford fans I knew, that was a proper rivalry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's great to have a proper rivalry. You know, we do miss them being so low in the league nowadays and kind of going the wrong way themselves. But maybe one day they'll come back from non-league.
I like that. I like that nice little jibe in there, really. Love it.
No, so Joey actually went to Swindon from West Ham. He didn't settle under Harry Redknapp. Went straight to Swindon. I mean, he just wanted to get back to, you know, his kind of area of the country. Didn't stay at Swindon long. We re-signed him for about 150k a year or so later, and then it was kind of where I started watching Oxford, and Joey Beecham was just a phenomenal winger. You just knew that if you sprayed it out to him and he's opening up, he would just cut inside, take on players and stick it in the top corner of the net. And he would do it week in, week out. And he just gave you that hope as underdogs, and particularly when we got to the Championship. He just gave us hope week in, week out. So to stand on the terrace and sing his name and watch how he played was just phenomenal. There is a bit of sweet to it because Joey 2 years ago he passed away. He took his own life. He left behind 2 teenage girls. So, you know, he's a cult hero for Oxford, but you know, it's sad. It's a sad time for Oxford fans in general. And you know, you can hear my emotion because, you know, you grow up watching someone, you idolise them, and you know, he had bad mental health. He struggled after football to find a route forwards in his life, and his mental health meant that he didn't see a way of continuing. Oxford are doing what they can to support the family, and we have the Joe Beecham Trust, and it's still a hard one to take, really, 2 years on.
Sure.
I should ask though, if you have a particular memory with the club in particular that you've got that.
I mean,
just covered it really, but
just to lighten it up, really, I think if you're talking about the club, last year to get to the League One playoff final the way we did, we started off strongly under Liam Manning. Liam Manning built a team after having a difficult season the season before, which was unexpected. Liam Manning came in, he built a team very quickly, and very quickly left us once Bristol City came running for him. Obviously a bigger club, Championship football, sold a dream, so he left us. We then had a bit of a fairy tale story in Des Buckingham coming into Oxford. Des has been with the City Group. He's been over in Australia, New Zealand with the national team, Mumbai. He's achieved so much in these countries under the City Group. We spent a lot of money to pull him away. He wanted to come back. Des Buckingham was a young Oxford coach under Chris Wilder when we got promoted back into League Two. And he went on a journey around the world, did fantastic for himself, like I say, under the City Group. So coming back into Oxford was like a reunion for us with him. Local papers have always kept tabs on him, so we knew where he was and what he was doing around the world over the last 10 years. He came into Oxford. We thought our saviour's here to take us up, and what basically happened was we went the opposite way, and we had a very difficult time from being kind of second in the league to losing quite a lot of games and wondering what was going on. But at the end of the season, it all pulled together. And Des is an absolutely fantastic coach. I think if you was to actually see him and his philosophies and the way he talks about the game and the amount of detail that goes into how the team play, what basically happened was we got into the playoffs again on the last game of the season unexpectedly. We then beat Peterborough in the semis. We beat them 1-0 at home, which I was at. Absolutely fantastic game. And then we went on to the away game. We got a 1-1 with them away. Again, this is all unexpected. I was just not expecting us to get to the final, which we did. So going into the final against Bolton, who believed that they had trounced us 5-0 a few months before. So you've got Vernon Kay, you've got all these celebrities just talking on the radio, saying that we're just going to turn up and win. But Des masterminded a 2-0 victory in the playoff final at Wembley. 30,000 Oxford fans, or 30,000 plus. 2 great goals from Josh Murphy, and it was the best experience for me as an Oxford fan. I've been to Wembley a few times with them, but it was just the best day. You can't top them days. You literally cannot.
Yeah.
So that was my best football memory.
That's amazing. I'll tell you what, you've been giving me a huge history lesson on Oxford United. You obviously know a lot of, no, not at all. I love it. You obviously know a lot about your beloved club, so I love it. Honestly, we should have more of this. Maybe we should dedicate more time in the pod for such things in future. I will like to move though on to Man v Fat and how you got involved. So the first question I have really is exactly that, really. When did you join, and how did it come to be?
Okay, so I joined in January, so I think it was around about the 3rd or 4th of January this year, 2024. How did it come about? So it was Craig Drury, actually. He basically, I know Craig and have known Craig for a couple of years because our daughters go to school together, and our wives are very good friends, and we've all kind of joined a friendship group, both husbands and wives, and it's a really fabulous group to be involved in. But I was finding on Friday evenings when I was going to the pub that he was coming in his football kit and popping off for a bit. So he'd pop in and say hello, and then he was like, I'm off to play football. I have been out of football for many years, probably since I was 25, so a good 17 years. And I was a little bit jealous, in all fairness. So I kind of questioned him and said, look, what are you doing? And he was, oh, it's Man v Fat. So I wanted to play football again. So I kind of, I got talking to him and asked a few times, and he said, look, you should come along. So so I got into Man v Fat through Craig, and it's just been fantastic since.
Had you, before Craig said what it was that he was doing, had you been thinking, I need to lose some weight, or was it more you wanted to play football and this was a way of doing it and the weight loss was the afterthought?
I'm not going to lie, I wanted to play football. A way of being able to get back into football again was something I was, I loved playing football when I was younger, and I've been through spells up until probably the age of, like I say, 25, of dropping in and out of it, and kind of I missed it. But then on the flip side, I got married I was in a good 10 or 11 year engagement with my now wife. We got married in Rhodes last August, and kind of in the 3 or 4 months in the build up to getting married, I was overweight and I wanted to look good for the wedding. So I started working out at home. I bought a treadmill, and the kids were asleep and my wife was at work in the evening, so I'd kind of watch the football and do some running. I was hoping to try and get down to under 90 kilograms. Basically, at the time I was about 102 kilograms, I think. So I was trying to get my weight down. I did get it down a bit, and I worked really hard to do that, but it really was a struggle. So at the time I bought a lot of clothes, thinking I would get my weight down, that were kind of a little bit smaller, and I just could not fit into them. Even when I got my weight down, I didn't get down to the 90s to go on holiday to get married. But so I kind of went through that phase of trying to get my weight down, got married in August, and then when I came back from the wedding, just piled it all back on. September, October, November, December. I'm not going to lie, I love a glass of red wine or 2 or 3, and I also enjoy a beer, and I'm quite a sociable person, so we're always doing things at weekends. And I love snacking, I love food, so it kind of just piled on quickly. So actually, in reality, although I was initially thinking I want to play football, I think the first time I met Steve and weighed in was when I actually realised what the challenge was at Man v Fat. And I kind of, I think you asked me, Steve, what goal are you going to set yourself? And I said to myself, I want to get under that 90 kilograms that I never did when I got married. So at that point, I think I started to kind of fixate more on the weight as much as the football. So I think football started the concept, but potentially weights got in front of the football, and that's kind of where I am with it, really.
Yeah. What do you know what you started at weight wise when you?
I think I was around about 97 point something when I first started. I can't be 100% sure. It was maybe like 97.5 or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. And so what have you managed to do now? Because you've been here 8 months or so now. Where are you at currently?
So I'm currently at about 76.9 kilograms, I believe, was my last weigh-in. So yeah,
I'm not good at maths. So what's the total on that?
Well, you're looking around. I suppose I've lost just over 20 kilograms, I suppose, somewhere between 20 and 20 and a half in that time.
That's right. Yeah, 20 kilograms.
Amazing.
and 5.4 kilograms this season. So
going.
It's interesting that you say you're someone who you came primarily for the football, but very quickly bought into the weight aspect of it, because you strike me as someone who has consistently lost weight from the word go. I mean, tell me if I'm getting this wrong, but my impression of you is that there's been very, very few weeks where you've not lost weight. I think you came back from a holiday having understandably put on weight, having had a great holiday, but other than that, I don't recall many, if any, instances where you've not been going in the right direction. Is that fair?
I do what I can to make sure I weigh under every single week, without a doubt. I think the one time I have weighed up, I was in Morocco, and I got back on a Thursday evening and just didn't have time to get on it, should I say. I had to weigh at that point. But yeah, I think the challenge to be underweight is kind of something that on a Monday morning I switch on to. I try to switch on a Monday where I can, and really push through the week to make sure that by the time I weigh in at that point at 7:15 or 7:30, that I'm down. It's kind of I suppose it's become a bit of an obsession in that way. Yeah, absolutely.
And what milestones have you hit along the way? I mean, we know the answer to this, but for the benefit of people listening,
So I lost my 20% just before I hit maintenance, basically. So I think I joined the purple team. I think they had about 4 weeks left in the season, so I came in quite near the end. Must say at the time, purple team absolutely fantastic. Jack, absolutely incredible, particularly with what he does with his WhatsApp groups and kind of his challenging and kind of I really bought into. I wasn't expecting to really have this type of support, and I didn't you turn up to a lot of football, and if it's competitive, it's competitive, but the kind of the support, the community, absolutely great. So like I say, the first 4 weeks I felt at home instantly, and I think that's when I kind of just instantly saw a challenge, and when I see a challenge I go for it. So I think my challenge to get under that 90 was something I wanted to get on with quickly, and I think I got my 5% perhaps either at the end of that 4 weeks or at the beginning of the next season. I might have just waited to get it at the beginning of the next season, and which was last season. So I had a terrific season last season. I think I hit the 5 and then the 10, but I couldn't hit the 15 that season. I'd got it at the end, but I wasn't allowed to take it.
Yeah.
And then I went on holiday and got on a little bit and had to wait a little bit longer then to lose it again to take the 15 and the 20 this season, and then obviously get into maintenance. So yeah, it's been a great journey. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, you've got to the promised land
well
as
done,
such for us, Man VFAT, and at the maintenance level. How are you feeling within it at the moment? Are you comfortable with it where you are?
I mean, if you know how I kind of work, it's always a push to get to maintenance at the moment. So I'm getting closer to not having to push as much. But I'm, I indulge at the weekend, and I will sometimes be 4 or 5 kilograms up on a Monday against my Friday weight. So I then have to chase it through the week. There's been camping sessions. There's been, it's been a busy few weeks with it being the summer. So it's been tough. It's been quite challenging, both mentally and physically, to make sure that I'm still at the maintenance weight come a Friday. I think I'm starting to crack it a little bit more now. I think it's been about 3 weeks so far, but I think this week, if I'm there, I'll be a little bit I should be there. I should be okay.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to lose a little bit more weight really, so that I can at the weekend let myself go and not have to do as much more, which that works for me. And I really appreciate. I like to fixate in the week on Man v Fat, and I will be a little bit conscious at the weekend about what I do. But you do have to live a life as well, and you do have to enjoy yourself. And perhaps I do that a little bit too much at times, but that's the way I do things. So it's tough. Yes, it's still tough.
Yeah, fair enough. What's your kind of routine then, though? Because you've been alluding to the fact you tend to indulge, and then you have to push yourself to come back down. Is that always been the case since you've started Man v Fat? Is that something that's just changed over time?
Yeah, 100%. I think I'm getting better at understanding my body, particularly with the apps that you can use as well, to understand the counting of calories, and what you kind of work out what works for you. But yeah, I mean, I would say that at the weekends, like I say, we've had a few weeks of kind of been away camping with friends and things, so it's not been that great. But I will let myself go at the weekend, and then I'll pick it up again on a Monday, and I'll have a little bit of a tussle of war in my head on a Monday, without a doubt, because you don't really want to let go of the weekend. You're a little bit tired, and I could quite easily say to my wife, let's just knock off work and go and have a meal at the pub and a couple of pints. But I know that I can't do that every Monday, and once I get through that day, I'll fast as much as possible. And then Monday's hard because you feel hungry, but I generally, from Monday to Friday, will eat one meal a day. I'll eat in the evening, around about between 7 and 8 o'clock. I can go through the day generally from a Tuesday to a Friday and not feel hungry at all, but there's definitely a tussle of war. The demon's in the head there on a Monday, and you get through it and you're in a good place. So yeah, my structure really is kind of like very extreme both ways, which I'm listening to Tom Marks a few weeks back on the podcast, absolutely in awe of the way he can kind of plan his week and just stick at it. And I know that's great for kind of the future as well, and perhaps I will need to make more changes one day, but at the moment I like to kind of go on a fasting session through the week, and I don't snack. I just find snacking is just I think if you start snacking, you just want your head's just thinking about food more and more. So I think if you can kind of cut out the snacks, but also, I mean, for me, I've got my own business, so it's quite stressful at times. I've got 3 kids that, like, at the moment they're off school, so work can be stressful. Hearing the kids in the garden can be stressful as well. So getting out and going for a run is something that is a really good headspace for me. And I've kind of, since starting back at Man v Fat, running is something that I've started to build. It was something that I didn't do too often in the past, here and there over the last few years. But running for me is kind of, it puts me in the best place. It really does.
Okay, I was about to ask you about that. Is that something you've learned to just enjoy doing? Have you got a routine with running, or do you just pick out, I need to go for a run now? Or do you do a certain number a week?
I'm just getting fitter and fitter at it. Over the last kind of 6 years, I've found running a good stress relief. So rather than kind of at lunchtime, I'll stick on my running gear and I'll just go for a quick run around the village. I'm quite blessed, live in Burton, so it's quite easy to get out there and run, and it's there's some great routes. But I literally stuck to the same 5k for about 6 years, and I'll probably do it once a week, maybe twice a week, and I'd struggle through it, in all fairness. But it gave me, when I'm running it kind of like, your stresses, your anxieties, the head block you have from difficult conversations you have with customers and so forth, you kind of work things out. I've always found it just releases whatever chemicals in my brain, and I come back with many thoughts and so much kind of like ways of dealing with some of the things that have been stressing me out. So I found running not just great physically for my physical health, but actually mentally, it puts me in a good place. And I think the more I'm doing it, the fitter I'm becoming, the further I'm running. I'm now kind of at the position where I'll go out, like today I went out and did a 15k. I did a 15k yesterday. I might do 10k tomorrow. I'll probably try and do between like 40 and 50k a week where possible now. And I don't, my body tires. I'm not, I'm in my 40s, so on a Monday morning or a Tuesday morning, I can run, and with a decent pair of running trainers, I could probably go and do 25, 30k if my body allowed it, but it doesn't. So I have to listen to myself, listen to my body, and kind of, I've done 20k runs and come back and then not been able to kind of get off the sofa for a few days. So you do really have to listen to yourself. I'm finding the more I do it, the more I can push myself. That's a really helpful key for me. And I don't want music or anything like that. I just want to get out there, back of Burton onto the lanes, like out into the countryside. It's great. But pushing towards the end of the week, it's a killer. I sometimes end up at Manvy Fat weighing in, having had to really push myself to get underweight on a Friday, and sometimes I'm not really in the best place to be playing football. So kind of that's where I need to try and be a little bit better at kind of getting to where I need to be, and maybe not indulging as much at the weekend, so that I can actually turn up on a Friday and actually run, rather than be really tired.
Yeah, fair enough.
You're possibly leaning towards an answer to this already, but do you think that what you've been doing is a sustainable way? Could you see yourself in 5 or 10 years' time having the same pattern of what you do at the weekend and what you do through the week that you do now, or is
probably not,
or is
no.
it a means to the end?
Probably not, no. I would say that at some point, particularly if you're not able to keep up with what you're doing in a week, and don't get me wrong, I have got plans in place moving forwards to, fasting, having one meal a day is not something I want to be doing forever. And I'm looking forwards to starting to eating breakfast again, in all fairness. But I think there becomes a point where if you're not able to sustain what you're doing in a week, you have to balance it out with what you're doing, with kind of like just cutting back at the weekend as much as possible, which I'm doing. It's the summertime at the moment, so I think there's a bit of an excuse there to perhaps socialize a lot more and kind of indulge more, but I want to make sure I'm under every week, so I put in the hard work. Whereas I think perhaps maybe in the future, maybe even here in the next few months, I might be in more of a position where actually the weekends are balancing out a little bit more. Like I say, I have changed the way I look at food at the weekend to an extent, but I do let myself go a little bit. But the extreme kind of putting on 4 kilograms or the averaging 4 kilograms through the weekend is probably something you'd have to look at if you're not doing as much sport and if you're not kind of fasting as much in the week. So it's all a balancing game, really. It's worked for me so far, and that's perhaps why I've not changed anything to a degree.
That's fair enough. Do you? I mean, you've alluded it to it a couple of times, I guess. But what do you think is still your biggest hurdle? What's the biggest thing you struggle with at the moment?
I mean, don't want to go over old ground, but like I say, I think getting that balance in place now is really important. I want to be able to eat a breakfast in the morning, and I don't struggle with feeling hungry after a Monday, but I think health-wise, I think it would be good to kind of try and just keep the trajectory in a more of a straight position rather than a kind of high and a high down kind of in terms of weightness. You know, I mean, everyone's always gonna, unless you are keeping a constant kind of diet through the weekend, you know, people's weight does go up and down. I think that's quite common. And I do track my weight quite a lot. So, you know, if I weigh myself first thing on a Monday morning, there's probably 2 kilograms worth of excess water and things like that. So actually it might be a bit closer anyway. But, you know, once I've kind of gone for a run and got over the weekend, my weight just come down quite quickly. But I kind of, with food tracking, it's something I definitely keep using, and understanding more about my body, understanding more about what works eating. I think they're the tools that I'll use moving forwards where I need to.
Yeah. In terms of your diet during the week, then, is there something you stick to in terms of eating? Because you say you fast and that you have 1 meal a day. Is there something specific you like to have within those meals, or is it kind of, you know, what do you recommend almost essentially? Because obviously you're doing something right during the week.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, what to stay away from first, you know, I stay away from any type of bread in the week, like most kind of dairy products, I suppose. Anything that's high in calories, anything that's too high in natural fat, so anything that's processed as well. I generally love chicken, and, you know, fish, any lean meats really. So it's really about trying to restrict anything that's too fatty. And then kind of on the side, really, if you're looking at salads, I quite enjoy like vegetables that are grilled. So I like stir fry veg. I'll use spices and you know, like soy sauce, 1 calorie, fry light oil. Just really try where you can to save on calories is kind of where I am in the week. So carbs are a bit of a funny one. I do like carbs to an extent, but I find if I have too many carbs, I struggle to lose weight day on day. So if you can try and reduce your carb intake, sometimes like maybe a half portion of carbs. So rather than having, if you look at a packet of pasta, it will tell you kind of what a serving is. I may go for a half serving and then have that with plenty of greens, plenty of vegetables that are very low in calories, and then like chicken's not bad. But I'll cut the chicken into pieces. I'll marinate it in like a like 0 calorie or a 0 fat Greek yogurt, natural Greek yogurt with like chicken tikka paste, maybe some more spices, and then I'll put it on the skewer and I'll either barbecue it or grill it or air fry it, and then so keep the carbs low, like use lots of seasoning that's good for you, and healthy meats basically.
I think that's such an important and such a good tip, that healthy food doesn't have to be bland food. And if it's tasty and if there's lots of flavour in it, then it doesn't feel like a sacrifice to be eating the healthy food rather than the fatty food. All the spices and the marinating and adding a bit of oomph.
Absolutely. And salads aren't, they're pretty boring. I've got to be honest, I don't really enjoy eating salad leaves and peppers and things. And what you need to stay away from is the mayos. Even the light mayos are kind of quite high in calories. So you start adding cheese and mayo and all this sort of a thing into it, and all of a sudden your salad's turning into quite a substantial meal. So you need to be a little bit careful on that.
What's your secret weapon? What's your secret weapon to make a salad something that you'd actually look forward to?
Something that looking forward to is maybe not something I do, but so getting some natural fats is good. So I love olives. So I'll stick, as long as you don't overdo these things. So a little bit of like the olives, a little bit of avocado, some like cashew nuts, like, you know, dry cashew nuts, like natural cashew nuts, not salted. And they can add some taste to it, but usually I'll go with the, you know, the peppers, the cucumber, salad leaves, and, you know, kind of tomatoes, a standard sort of a thing. So certainly find with like stir frying veg or grilling veg, like on the barbie, like on a flat plate on the barbie, things like asparagus, green beans, onion, mushrooms, all of these things, you can really pack out a dish and it be so low in calories as well at the same point. So you can have quite a substantial meal and there'd be a lot on the plate as well, but it not necessarily being the highest in calorie counting, you know. So yeah, certainly Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like, you know, these are the kind of meals I'll be eating. Like I say, try and stay away from snacks as much as possible. I think the only snack I really go to is like the rice cakes, the 30, they're about 30, you know, like the standard big rice cakes you can get from most supermarkets. But I won't put butter on them. I'll just stick a bit of Marmite on them and have them quite dry. But, you know, they're like 30 calories each. And if you are still feeling a bit hungry just before bed, I might have one or two of those. But I tend not to do it too often.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. This is probably a question just for my own amusement and enjoyment. Is there what's your kind of guilty pleasure at the weekends? You say you tend to let go. This is maybe not advice for the community. This is something that it might open a debate, but we'll.
There's so many guilty pleasures at the weekend. Where'd you start?
What's your go-to?
Yeah, I mean, I've always found it really hard with crisps for starters. So kind of cutting out crisps from your diet in the week is something where maybe at the weekend I'll live some crisps, a little bit of chocolate maybe, red wine. Yeah. I mean, I don't eat cheese in a week, so maybe a little bit of cheese, but I try and keep that as low as possible. I think you can have different guilty pleasures at different weeks, but there are so many things you do miss kind of in the week that perhaps at the weekend, let yourself go a little bit, but try not to just go for everything at the same time, I suppose, is kind of the way forwards. For me, I can't let bacon sarnie go without a do on a Saturday or a Sunday. But you make I've made compromises. So like I'll air fry the bacon and I'll take the fat off it, and I'll use like the Hovis brown bread. It's quite small, the really small squared brown breads.
Yeah.
I think if you do, like my wife's done Slim and World and that sort of thing quite a few times. So that's like a zero sin if you have one slice of that in Slim and World. So kind of we've always got that in the freezer, and I'll have that with a bacon sarnie. It's like half a bacon sarnie in the morning basically. But yeah, so you can have your guilty pleasures, but sometimes maybe just cut back a little bit and not all at once.
Yeah,
but there is plenty, without a doubt.
I was just curious, you know. I speak to enough people in the community who say, "Oh, I always go to X place after football on a Friday," and that's their thing.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to lie, you will find me in a pub somewhere in Christchurch after a game on probably with Craig and whoever else wants to come along. The invitation's open to anyone in Man v Fat who fancies a pint. We could chat about football. It's our great opportunity to kind of talk what happened in the game and kind of have an hour or so away from the family as well. And I really value that as well. At the same point, it's kind of become part of the Friday routine, really, of having a hard week and then letting your hair down a little bit.
Yeah, amazing. Is there any other small tips and tricks you can any wisdom to impart upon the communities, I should say, listen?
So, I mean, drinking wise, like, I mean, everyone knows drinking water's kind of helpful, particularly when you're not eating as much. I quite like the fizzy carbonated drinks, like you can get lime and lemon carbonated drinks that are pretty much like 1 calorie per litre bottle. can get quite boring just drinking like orange juice or water through the week. So I might have like a bottle of that every other day or something like that. Obviously Coke Zero, maybe a can here and there, but I try not to drink too much fizzy kind of pops. But yeah, so I mean, water's important, isn't it? And drinking's important. And kind of when you're fasting to a degree, yeah, you've got to look at the drinks that are going to complement the no eating at the same point.
Yeah. Staves off hunger as well, doesn't it? I think I found drinking enough as well. So.
And then, you know, sometimes there is the odd occasion where you are, you know, you've got birthday meals, you've got social things going on in the week. As long as you can have a, you know, like I'll go out every now and again with family and friends, and I might have like a slimline tonic rather than a pint of beer, like a gin and tonic, quite low in calories. So, you know, as long as you're not going for like flavored gins, if you could just go for like a standard Gordon's gin, it's like less than 100 calories with a tonic as well. So, you know, all of a sudden, rather than indulging in pints that are quite high, you can kind of get away with maybe one or two of those and not feel too bad in the morning, and kind of like your weight's not really move too much. So yeah, that sort of a thing. It's not every week, but you know, you've got to find ways sometimes of enjoying yourselves while you're out in the week as well, because it can get quite boring if not. One thing I've been buying recently for the weekend is like skinny lagers. So you can buy them in Tesco's and Home Bargains, but they're a little bit lower. I think 30% lower in calories. So if you want a beer, I say 30% is like I think it's about 4% beer. So I think it's supposed to be about 30% less in calories than other kind of 4% beers. So yeah, just that sort of a thing. Whatever you can do, really, just even at the weekend, just to try and keep your weight down as much as possible, or look out for yourself a little bit more. So yeah, I'm kind of building these things in a little bit more, and I'm a little bit more conscious at the weekend, should I say.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I can't thank you enough for giving us all that fine wisdom. And you've obviously been a mega journey. One thing we did, because your name did come up obviously a couple of weeks ago in the report because you hit maintenance. I know Steve alluded to the fact that you'd only taken 28 weeks or something to lose your 20 kilos to get to your maintenance, which is extremely impressive, I must say. So very well done for that. It's an example to the whole community, I'd say.
Yeah,
you've done, especially as you've come from someone who, as you admitted yourself, who's come from someone who wanted to play football and then has quickly switched or realised the benefit of the community and what it can do for your weight and what it's here for. So
I should say as well, something that I know Jack has said to me before now, when you were in the old purples with Jack, he made the observation that you were one of the people that was constantly active and supporting other members of the team in the group chat and just through the week. So it's not just that you've knuckled down and done your fierce Monday to Friday program. You've been supporting other people on the way as well. So, you know, really giving back to the club as well as getting out of the club. So that I think is worth commenting on.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be involved in these communities, these groups, and I think interaction is quite important, particularly through the week. Everyone's on a different journey. It's harder for some people. I work from home all the time. I can knock off and go for a run. I know it's not easy for others. They're commuting, they're stuck in offices, and they get home and they've got kids to look after and that sort of thing. And I've kind of been fortunate in that way. But any way you can kind of try and motivate people to kind of be their best they can be, really is kind of, I get a bit of satisfaction from that. And it's good to talk to people as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the weight loss, I wasn't expecting to lose this type of weight. In all fairness, it wasn't something I thought I would be able to do. So I've really enjoyed the challenge, and it's helped me with some of my health issues as well. So and there's people in my daughter's football community that they've left and then they've come back with their daughters and turned around to me and said, I didn't even recognize you for the first few weeks, like what's happened. So it's to be able to pass on the wisdom as well to them, and that weeks later they're coming back to me and they're reporting back to me about their new weight loss journey and their fasting and kind of what they're doing like fitness wise. So yeah, I mean, it's been great. Like I've enjoyed every minute of it so far, although it's a challenge and there are moments you don't enjoy. You're kind of like, I think in hindsight it's been a fantastic kind of journey so far, and yeah, it's difficult, it's challenging, but it's kind of, you need these challenges, you really do. And I think if you can push yourself in the right direction and keep challenging yourself, even if it's just little things, it doesn't have to be, oh, I need to get to maintenance. It's kind of just getting past them markers and pushing yourself, then you kind of build momentum, and it's like, the ball rolls and you just want to go for it. So yeah, it's just been a terrific journey so far.
Oh, amazing.
And you've done terrifically well, and you're an absolute credit to the club. So so thank you for all of that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's a great club to be at.
Absolutely. Well, for the last few minutes, thank you, I should say. And for the last couple of minutes, I just wanted to ask you both a quick question or two before we end. Mainly, actually, wanted to ask you, so I didn't ask you this before, Chris, in your run through Oxford United, is how do you think you're going to do this season quickly?
It's sorry, I don't know. We are favourites to go down this season, but we have strengthened rapidly, and I think we're going to stay up. Could be dark horses, who knows? But it is hard going into the Championship and retaining the position in the Championship, but investments there. So a mid-table finish for us would be amazing in our first year back, I suppose.
Amazing. I was going to say opening day win, so that's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice start. Anyway, we've talked Fulham ad nauseum last week, Steve, so apologies, I won't ask you again about Fulham.
Fair enough.
Just quickly, in the eve of the Premier League season, I know the Football League's already started, as we mentioned, and because of Jack and Ben returning potentially, I did want to just ask you, and I will ask Jack and Ben in the meantime, if you follow Premier League, that is, Chris, what your predictions might be. So who's going to win, firstly, Premier League? I think I'm going to say Man City again. I don't think anybody else with it.
Yeah, is it not Man City's to lose, as always? Maybe Liverpool with a new manager might just bring some surprises. United, yeah, I think they might struggle.
No.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea have been doing okay pre-season, but I still think it's City's to lose really again this year.
Yeah. How about you, Steve? Reckon any different with that?
I'd go along with that. The one question mark with City is the whole business of the financial
115
things, which apparently I've not. I don't know the detail of this, but apparently a date has been set now for when the hearing is going to happen, or
this season sometime anyway. I know that.
Yeah. So it's hard to see City not getting another title unless that is the thing that has a major effect. If they get a points deduction, then suddenly it's a very different situation. But yeah, beyond that, it's hard to see past City.
Okay. Top four potentially. Any idea on that? I'm going to say City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United is my four. Don't know if there's any surprises you got in there.
I think you can't really I mean, Spurs.
Yeah, Spurs. Yeah, good
Thanks for bringing
shouts.
I think
Big Dom.
I think City, Arsenal, and Liverpool feels like the safe bet, and I think there's then a number of clubs who you could easily see getting the fourth spot. I mean,
Yeah.
Newcastle this season aren't going to have European football
Europe.
as a distraction. Tottenham are a club that always feel like they're on the verge of being up at that level again and then falling short of it. I don't think, and this isn't just me, the Fulham fan, saying this, I don't think Chelsea are going to be in up as high as that, but they could be. Man United could be. Villa, well, it depends on what effect
I
Europe
think they
has.
struggle
But
with Europe. Yeah.
I think there's lots of clubs who you could see in fourth. And Man United are going to have the disadvantage of starting the season with a defeat.
Yes,
So
I knew you'd get something in there. You're going to the game, aren't you?
I am, yes. I have a rare Friday night away from Man v Fat Bournemouth. We're going up to visit my wife's family who live in Lancashire. And and there's Fulham playing at Old
Just so
Trafford on
happened, yeah.
Friday night.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Peter
What a
and I have got
coincidence.
tickets for that, and we're going to see it. So
Yeah.
So yes, at 1 minute past 8, we will be top of the Premier League because us and Man United will provisionally have a point each, and we come above you alphabetically.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
by the end of the night, we're either going to be top of the Premier League or we're going to be bottom of the Premier League. A win or draw will have us top on Friday night, and I will absolutely be screenshotting the league table in that if that comes to pass.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Just quickly then, before we leave it, relegated teams. I've put Southampton, Leicester because of their potential points deduction, and Forest. I've actually put to be relegated. I think Ipswich might stay up, but maybe that's me being nice to Gareth, and I'm sure he's listening. So, yeah. Any thoughts, lads, on that one?
I think you're quite right. I think Ipswich are probably a team on a bit of a rise, and they've done fantastic, and it gives us lower league fans the kind of a reason to believe that you can go up a few leagues very quickly and kind of get to the dreamland of the Premiership. So I really do hope that they stay up. I think you're quite right with Southampton. I think quite a lot of Southampton fans will probably tip themselves to go back down. I know a few of my friends do. Yeah, usually the teams going up are the ones going back down, and a few might get thrown into the mix.
Yeah.
I'm going to be boring, I'm afraid, and say the three newly promoted teams. I think I agree with you. Leicester have got the disadvantage of potential points deductions, which will make it really hard. Also, they've lost Dewsbury Hall, who was a key player for them last season, and they've changed manager. So have they? Yes,
Yeah.
they've changed manager.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that could work for them, but it could be a disruption. I just think they've got too many obstacles to get past. And Ipswich, yes, they've had phenomenal momentum to get out without, but they have come a long way in a short time. And there are players still in the squad. I mean, Gareth can tell me if I've got this wrong. I'd imagine there's a number of players who were playing a couple of divisions below the Premier League for them. Are those players able to step up again, or are they going to be found out? And I just think, as brilliantly as Ipswich have done, going up 2 steps in such a short period might be asking too much. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
mine
I
was
think
maybe
the three
hopeful
new.
prediction.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd love it if any of the newly promoted teams stayed up as long as it's
Yeah.
not at Fulham's expense. But I if I had to name three, I would take them.
Yeah. Well, Oxford have got something to look for then, haven't they, in terms of the Ipswich following them up twice in a row. So you never know. You never know, Chris. Yeah. Thank you for that. I will just say quickly, cutting into the new season, we are going to start doing the fantasy football stuff again. That is a reminder, because the Premier League season starts this Friday. Fantasy football also starts this Friday evening. Deadline of about 6 p.m. So just remember that if you're listening at this time. It'll only be 6 hours from when this releases until you can get your teams in. So just a reminder. And then we will be back week to week just with some updates on that. Thank you.
Are you all settled with your team, Josh?
Oh, no. No, but I'm hoping by the time this comes out, I will be, at least have some idea.
I'm still tinkering with one or two, umming and ahhing about.
Yeah.
If I swap him for a cheaper one, I can swap him for a slightly more expensive, and just the last 2 or 3 players to finalise. But I'm nearly there.
No idea what to do. But, oh well. I don't suppose you play fantasy football, Chris? Do you?
I did a few years back, but I find myself stressing at the deadline to do something, and I don't enjoy that. So I've kind of taken a step back from it. If I find some time, I'm going to be reading a book. Just put it that way.
Okay, fair enough.
And are there any particular books you'd like to find time to be reading?
There's one that I got to chapter 6, and I'd like to get a bit further on. But no, fantasy it's absolutely great, and there's so many friends in so many different WhatsApp and football groups that are all banging on the door right now about kind of joining the leagues again. But for me, I just don't find the time. I just get stressed with it. So not stressed, but I find myself kind of not enjoying playing just because
it is a game after all, to be enjoyed on some level.
Maybe
not taken quite as seriously as I do, or Stephen who does. But yeah.
All that matters to me, I have to beat my sons. If I finish above Peter and Dan, then I don't mind where I come in any of my other leagues.
Fair enough. Well, we'll leave it there then, lads. Thank you very much, Chris, for coming on and talking to us. Been very enlightening. I've learned some very good history about Oxford United, I'll tell you that. And also some premium information to take away to help myself and others in the community and what they can do to get to the promised land that you have in terms of maintenance. And thoroughly well deserved for the work you've done, and fantastic, mate. Just can't say enough more than you have already said, and so has Steve. So thank you again for coming on.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
No worries. Well, that's it this week then. Thanks to everyone who listens, and we'll be back again very soon. Cheers.